Welcome to Journey Home to Self. This is a place for us to explore the milestones, the roadblocks, the pit stops, and the breathtaking sights on the most important journey of our lives, the journey of coming back home to you. My hope is that through the stories, insights, knowledge, and wisdom we share here, you get inspired and activated to widely fall in love with choosing yourself every single moment. I'm your host, Deepshikha Sairam, and I am truly so excited and honored that you are here. Let's dive in and journey home to self together. Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Journey Home to Self. Today we have a guest on the podcast and we are talking about empowered healing after a romantic loss. A divorce or a breakup can be extremely heartbreaking and painful, but it does not have to be the end of your love life. My guest today, Martha Bodyfelt, is a dating and relationship coach for busy women over 40. And she shows women that it is very much possible to be in a premium relationship that is full of sparks. Since 2016, she has professionally coached and mentored hundreds of women using her unique dating DNA framework, a powerful tool that shows women how to quickly stop their dating self sabotage, get confident in their standards, and effortlessly attract and keep the love they desire. Martha also serves as an expert contributor to the Huffington Post, Elephant Journal, Psychology Today, and Thrive Global, where her advice regularly impacts over 10 million women. This episode is going to be very empowering for you, especially if you are a woman who is over 40 and who is looking for love after going through a divorce or a breakup. We talk about what is the difference between empowered healing and disempowered struggle after the end of a romantic loss. We also talk about why is it so hard to heal after a divorce or a breakup. We talk about the very toxic dating industry and some of the toxic advice that you may have read or heard about when you start dating again. We also talk about some of the most common obstacles that you see that keep women from empowering healing and finding love. I absolutely loved the badass, no bullshit approach that Martha brings to her coaching. And this episode is going to leave you feeling confident, but also very inspired that yes, it is very much possible for you to find lasting love no matter what age you are at. So let's welcome Martha and listen to all her genius on dating. Hey Martha, welcome to Journey Home to Self. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm so happy to be here with you, Dee. It's good to see you again.
I know it's been so long and I'm
I
happy to
know.
have you here. I know we've had a couple of months where we've been talking about having you. I'm so glad that we're finally able to do it. All right, before we go into this really important discussion today, I want the listeners to know a little bit more about you. Of course, I did an introduction of you, but tell us a little bit about where are you joining us from? What do you do? And how did you even get into this?
Yeah, right. So, hey, everybody. My name is Martha Bodyfelt, and I am a dating and relationship coach for women over 40. And I am coming to you all from cloudy Washington, D.C. So, just a little bit down I-95 from UD. And yeah, so I got into this. Nobody in high school, nobody's counselor says, how about you be a dating coach? But a little bit of a brief background on me is I had originally, after I was in the Army, after I left corporate, all of that kind of stuff, after going through a nasty divorce on my own, I actually, a few years later, had gotten a certification. And for the longest time, I was actually a divorce coach. And so I
Mhm.
was helping women navigate kind of the legal and emotional complexities of divorce. But what happened was a lot of the women in my 5 years as a divorce coach started to ask me, you know what, I think I'm actually healed. I think I actually want to go and date again, but I haven't dated since 1995. Martha,
Mhm.
can you help me? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I'm terrified of rejection. I'm terrified of getting too close physically, too much physical intimacy, and I haven't even been with anybody besides my husband for 20 years. What am I supposed to do? And so I had so many clients come up and ask me about that. And that was actually happening around the same time that I remarried. I went through a really messy divorce 10 years ago, and I got engaged last summer, and I recently remarried in May to a wonderful man. And so I knew that finding love was possible after divorce, but you could not approach marriage and you could not approach dating like you did when you were in your 20s. And so that's how I guess the pivot from divorce coach and divorce recovery was this just beautiful evolution to becoming a dating coach, because I had gone through it. I had the trial and error. I spent God knows how many hours reading the books, finding the information, sorting out treasure from trash, and then presenting that and my methodologies for finding incredible love at midlife and forming that into the dating DNA framework, which is something that I help my clients with. So this is really important if any of the listeners are over 40 and maybe have had love before, and if it was a divorce or the end of a long-term relationship or even the passing, and you want to put yourself out there, but you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do online dating, but I want to find love. What do I do? I do definitely have some ideas for that. So I'm really excited to kind of share my knowledge with the audience.
I love that. And first of
Mm.
all, congratulations. I knew that you were seeing someone and I
Yes.
didn't know that you were engaged because we haven't talked in a long time,
It's
but
been a minute.
congrats.
Yeah. Thank
It's
you.
been, oh my God, so good, so amazing. I love, love, love hearing that.
Thank
And
you.
um, Martha, so I think something happens to women, and I know exactly what happens to everybody actually over the age of
Yeah.
40. And it's actually been scientifically proven now. There's been books written about it. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself talks about it. It's a book by Dr. Joe Dispenza. That by the age of 40, we've had most of the experiences that we want to have in the world, right?
Mhm.
There's literally nothing new that happens in our life. We've
Yeah.
had kids. Most people have
Mhm.
had kids. We've dated, we've married, we've had relationships. Even in a career, a lot of these instances have memories have been created. So something new happens. It's not like a new memory being created.
Mhm.
It's, our brain matches that memory with the database that it has and attaches it to some of the past memories, right? Even if it's, having children over the age of 40, it's
Yeah.
attached with the love that you had before.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's at that age where our ego kind of starts to die down and our soul starts to wake up and says, is this it? Is this it? Is there
Mhm.
more to it? And unfortunately, that is also when a lot of women start their journey home to themselves and they
Mhm.
realize that their happily ever after cannot be so,
Yeah.
right? What was
Yeah.
that your experience as well when you went through a nasty divorce?
For me, absolutely, because I think women, it doesn't matter where you grow up. We all have this conditioning, and it is societal conditioning, it is cultural conditioning that our ancestors, our grandmothers, our mothers, in society has told us that your role and your happiness is going to be based on the happily ever after of being married, having the 2.1 children with the picket fence like out in the suburbs, and that's you're good, and that's all you have. And then I think in the 1970s and whatnot, then there was like, okay, well then you get to work outside the home as well. And so although I think kind of that whole concept of the Disney fairy tale princess, growing up in rural Wyoming, growing up kind of in a lower, middle class family, growing up as the middle child, that kind of whole Disney illusion wasn't played up as much. I wasn't dressed as like a pink princess, but there kind of still was for me growing up. Even, honestly, even when I was in the army, serving even as a female, there was this whole, oh, once you get married, you're going to be happy because, you're going to have a husband who's going to love you and cherish you and
And
protect
take
you
care
and
of
care
you.
for you and take care of you.
Yeah.
Everything that we know the healthy masculine to be. But then
Right.
when we're in that space, that's not really happening. And I know that was certainly my experience as well. And it wasn't that my ex-husband was a bad person, but it was just, we were just not good together. And that happy ending that I thought I had when I got married pretty young. I got married at like 23 years old. That,
Me
oh, I
too.
got this. Yeah, right. I know. And I was like, okay, I have this. I have this a lot faster than I thought I did. Oh, yeah, yeah, sure. We've got problems. I was dealing with stuff in the army. I was dealing with the spinal injury. We were dealing with his immigration stuff because we brought him in. He was an immigrant, but then kind of starting to kind of silence some of these things that my instincts were telling me that, Martha, maybe this isn't right. Maybe this happy ending that you're forcing, that you're just, no, damn it, this is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to be. Maybe this is not how it intended. But then swallowing that's what we do as women, because our instinct is being stomped on for years. We're getting conditioned against that. But there started to be whispers of that until those whispers were just a roar in my head. And that was really kind of when the marriage started to collapse. And so when I was dating, kind of, I like to call it like Moses wandering around in the desert for 40 years. I think I don't know. I left the Catholic Church when I was 20. I don't know the biblical reference. I don't know. But it started still, there was kind of that through line then in my 30s and then even into my early 40s that, hey, you need to start listening to your gut and being terrified, Dee, because I feel like that had been beaten out of me, like, so to speak. Society just had kind of taken that away. And so trying to date and trying to find love again, and then teaching my clients how to do it and kind of tapping into their feminine wisdom, kind of that when you're coming home to yourself,
Mhm.
and working with women who are professionally successful, high achievers, the top of their game, great relationships with their kids, even, on speaking terms with their ex-husbands, but then being terrified. They're like, I don't know how to do that, Martha. And
Right.
then they start feeling bad and they punish themselves because they don't have a skill set that has been beaten out of them by society. And so getting and tapping into, what is spirit telling you?
Yeah.
What is your instinct telling you to date successfully? And that is kind of the beautiful sacred work I've been blessed to do with these women as a dating coach, is getting back to that.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. And like you were saying, we haven't been taught these skills in school and
Mm-hmm.
college. We haven't been taught to look after ourselves, listen to our gut, listen to our intuition,
Mm-hmm.
find love in a way that supports us, find an equal partner. There's a beautiful book called Prince Charming Isn't Coming. And, it talks all about that your happiness is with you. When we become responsible for our own happiness, that then finding love is easier, because then you're
Mm-hmm.
not putting it on the other person. You're not, the source of your happiness is not the other person. It just uh, This past weekend, Martha, I've been reading this book and I've been so frustrated with it. It's a very popular book, you guys. It's like top the charts, and it might be, but it was very triggering for me. It's
Mm-hmm.
called It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. And I've read a couple of her books and I'm a big fan of her writing. But when I was reading this book, it's all about domestic violence. And
Mm-hmm.
this woman gets into a relationship with this man, and there are these red flags,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot read this book. Can't she see? Like, this is
Yep.
so stupid. But that's the fairy tale that was pictured for us, right? This
Right.
nice hunk with good muscles who's gonna come in, swoop in, take care of us, make mad love to us. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all this has been the fairy tale. And soon many women realize that it's so much more about that. Spending your
Mm-hmm.
lifetime with a partner isn't about just, crazy hot sex, right?
Right.
Isn't about like the date nights. It's about
Mhm.
so much more than that. It's actually more about the downs than the 20-minute foreplay.
Exactly,
Right.
100%. And it is interesting because what I thought was unique and why I wanted so badly to go into the space of working with midlife women is they are still on that narrative of the Prince Charming. They are still reading these books that are problematic at best, that
Mhm.
is that are basically like, oh, well, you just need to surrender to the man, be feminine, do this and that. Don't, and I'm just like, was this written from the 1850s? Because it was wrong then, but how is this? And then taking on kind of that responsibility of, oh, it's my fault. I'm not in a good relationship. Oh, maybe my ex-husband was right that no one's going to love me. And and that's what the work kind of do as a dating coach is getting back to the basics of you have to build your foundation up as a worthy, strong woman who knows what she wants and
Mhm.
who can have a perfectly wonderful time spending time by herself, getting back to the things that make her happy. And it is absolutely critical to build that foundation before you even go back out into the dating world. But nobody
Yeah.
wants to talk about that because it's still
Right.
this messaging of go and wear a cute dress, and then you go and go to the bars and learn how to flirt. And a lot of my clients, so these are incredible women. These are vice presidents at banks. They run their own businesses. They are high top corporate lawyers, and they are still struggling with the same messaging that they received in the 1960s and 70s, and then from Disney movies as well. And that is, it blows my mind that that's the
Yeah.
case. And that's why we are called to do the work that you and I are called to dismantle that so we can build up the women from the healthy place that they need to go from.
Yeah. Because you're such a badass, and I know that this is not going to be a problematic question for you. I want to
Sure.
know what are, like, let's call it out. What are maybe
Mhm.
like your top three things from the books and the fairy tale that completely drives you crazy, and you know that it's not the truth.
Oh my God. I think one of the ones is, it is, I, one of the ones is, you're acting too much like a man. And so this one that
Mm.
this makes me crazy. And I think there's a reason, and it drives me crazy for a couple of reasons. And the number one reason is that women have not been taught any differently, because we have been taught, go out there and start your business, get the degree, be the top lawyer, be the boss lady, which is great. But then it's almost like we then are being punished for that.
Yeah.
We are being almost kind of gaslit in a way that it's like, okay, we have been told to go and take on these healthy masculine traits. Oh, but then by the way, these masculine traits are the reason that you're not getting a good man. It's your fault. Whereas like women are like, well, this is what I was supposed to do. This is what I was
Yeah.
raised to do. And now I'm being punished for doing that. And
Mhm.
so that is probably the number one that like drives me crazy, is that, okay, you're being too much like a man, but we are not taught how to lean into that divine feminine because
Yeah.
society has basically silenced the divine feminine. And so that is probably the number one. I think the number two one is that, well, you just got to get with the times. You have to learn how to like love online dating, lean into to online dating, and because then you can meet everybody. But every single client that I have met, that I have worked with, who is 40 and better, refuses to online date because they say it's horrible and it minimizes them and then it devalues them. And what I say to that is, well,
Why
you're
so?
right.
Why do they feel that it minimizes them and devalues them?
I think one of the reasons why is because they think that they are just constantly being judged on their appearance, that they don't have a sexy picture,
Mm.
if they don't have a cute selfie, or if they're not wearing, the right amount of makeup or whatever in their picture, the guy is just going to swipe. I can't remember swipe, wipe, right? Whatever the one is
I don't know
I don't want to
either.
match with you. I don't know. It's been a minute. And so that's why they feel it devalues them, is, hey, this person doesn't even know me, and they're making a judgment of me on that. And
Yeah.
so I think kind of that messaging is there's that mixed messaging, and they get very frustrated about that of, okay, go and put yourself online and have a cute profile. But they're like, well, what's the point when the apps are almost against me anyway?
Yeah.
Because
And
yeah,
like these are, just to for my clarity, these are not men who are in their 20s looking for a date.
no, no, these are all men
These
over
are
40.
probably 40, 50-year-old men. Some of
Hmm.
them may be, divorced or
Hmm.
maybe unmarried, and they're
Hmm.
still judging women on their appearance and nothing more
Yes.
than that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And I've
That
had
drives me
clients, yeah,
crazy too.
it is. And so we're two out of three, right? That like, okay, don't act like a man, but we've been conditioned to have those, without really kind of being conditioned in society to let our divine feminine in. So that's crazy. Just go out and meet all the great guys on the apps, the dating apps. That's the way to go. And women not really having success for that. So that is an annoying part. And then the one that drives me crazy is that, and it's not on the surface level bad advice, but because there's no context to it, it's just like nails on a chalkboard, is just go out there and have fun. And that is maddening because it is almost saying to the women, especially, these women at midlife and better, is you don't know how to have fun anymore. And that's the reason that your marriage ended, because you're not a fun girl and you're not the cool girl. And so if you go online right now, we could actually go and Google right now how to date. That is going to be like one of the number one pieces of advice. And it just drives me batshit crazy, because when we say go out there and have fun, it's kind of like, well, it's very hard to do that when you as a woman have been carrying the burden for years, if not decades, trying to be everybody's caregiver, then also bringing in the money home, and then also running the household, and then trying to heal from your trauma, and trying to recognize and disrupt the dysfunctional cycles that have been before you and with your mom and with your grandmother. And now you just want me to go out and have fun?
Yeah.
That is maddening. And so the beautiful work that I do is working to deconstruct all of that with my clients.
Yeah.
That
I can get that. Yeah. And especially because a lot of these women have been carrying those beliefs in their mind that probably I got divorced or my relationship ended because I was no fun. Maybe they've been even told that by an ex-boyfriend or an husband or someone else in the family. And some of these women might even have children at home who they're still taking care of, and jobs to go to. So just saying that go out there and have fun is probably not a very good advice to someone who's looking to seriously find love again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And an equal offender of go out and have fun is just be confident. And that it's like, well, how are you going to just quote, just be confident, when society has constantly torn you down, when you're coming from a marriage or a long-term relationship where maybe you were not treated well, maybe you were abused, whatever that looked like, whether you were cheated on. And so you're just saying, just be confident, when the whole mechanisms of society and misogyny have made sure that you're not confident.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
maddening.
it just drives me crazy anyway when someone says just be confident, like even in the online business world, you and I belong there. We are from there. This word is used so openly and it's just thrown around a lot. Just be confident. Be confident and speak on stages. Be confident and pitch for podcasts or go live on Facebook or Instagram. Confidence isn't something that you can get. You can't buy. It's not like oh, I'm out of it today, let me go get some. Let me get some confidence from Starbucks. It's something that comes from within, and you cannot be confident. You can't find confidence within yourself if you haven't dug deep enough, if you haven't excavated enough and excavated those false limiting beliefs of unworthiness, not enoughness, self-doubt, inner critic, and all that. When you get to the deep, that's where confidence is. And confidence also doesn't come by doing something once. Confidence comes by doing something again and again and again. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And it's not something that you're not just going to gain confidence by going online and Googling how to date at 40. It's not going to be something, no matter how well-meaning some of these kind of cute Instagram reels are or slides or whatnot, it is not something that you are going to get by just simply reading something. It is an inside job. It is a repeated inner work, foundational, beautiful duty and responsibility that you have for yourself, but understanding that you don't have to do that alone. You don't have to, just because no one's ever taught. But conversely, just because nobody's ever taught you that, well, I don't know how to be confident, nobody ever taught me how to do that, does not mean that you can't get it. But it is a responsibility on you. But then knowing, the work that I do as a dating coach is showing women how to borrow confidence from other areas of their life. Let's say if they're corporate badasses or professionals, how do we borrow that? How do we use it? Although you are sometimes using that as a mask, how do we actually borrow that and start putting in that foundation for that inner confidence, for that inner peace, to build that? So then you are going to feel good about dating, regardless of what that outcome is. And so it is something that it's a very surface level thing that I think is bandied about, what you hear in the media and whatnot, but it is something, a responsibility that you have to lay the foundation for. And what I tell my clients is, unless we work through that first, because it's a foundational part of my dating DNA framework. Unless we work on that, dating and finding love is going to be much harder.
Yeah. Hey, Deepshika here. I just wanted to take a quick break and thank you for tuning in. I love making this podcast for you, and I hope you love listening. If you do, the best way to show it is, yes, you guessed it, reviews. Reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts, help the show's visibility and get it to more people. So if you're enjoying the show, let us know. Thanks again. All right, let's get back to the conversation. So, Martha, what is the number one thing these women should do in order to be okay, in order to go, and, I might not even use the word go out there, but in order to start dating or in order to be ready for dating again? What is that number one thing? What's the most important thing you think that women should do?
I think one of the most important things, because I actually think there's three very important things, but I think the most important thing I think is having kind of clarity. That if you are not clear, and this is a part of a dating detox program that I do in my coursework, but if you do not have clarity on a couple of things, dating is going to be much harder, because you are going to repeat the same mistakes that maybe contributed to a relationship ending in the first place. And so it is being very clear on why you want to date. Because if you're just saying, just because I don't want to die alone with 18 cats, frankly, chilling with some cats with attitude, I don't think that's a bad way to go. But I think that is, if you have to be very clear on, why do I want love? What excites me about love? Being very clear on that, being very clear on what are some of the reasons that my last relationship ended. What I see with some clients that come in and they say, well, my ex did this, my ex did this, my ex did this. Yes, we know your ex is an asshole, but let's talk about where were you at this time? Yeah. Let's have some beautiful, radical honesty. Who were you in that relationship that maybe you didn't like? What personality things were you doing that didn't make you feel genuine or true or your true self? Who were you in the relationship? What was that dynamic like? We have to be very clear on that. What did you not like about that relationship? What did you like about that relationship? How do you want to be different? How do you want to feel differently? Or how do you want to feel same in the next relationship? We have to be very, very clear on all of those things before we build any more groundwork, before we date. But it comes with that clarity. But before we have that clarity, we have to have that radical responsibility, self-responsibility, to be afraid and not be afraid to look at that mirror, lovingly hold up that mirror for us to see, what is it? Why am I even here? And what is it that I even want?
And is that what you call empowered healing with your clients?
That is absolutely, that is the cornerstone before we do any of the other work that we do in working together with my clients. But it is the empowered healing. It is that dating detox of understanding past relationships. What did that look like? What was that dynamic? What did I like? What did I not like about that, about myself, about my partner? What do I want to have different? And how do I return to myself? That's the second part of the empowered healing, is there's that clarity. And that second part of that empowered healing is, how do I return to myself? What are the things that I need to get back to for myself? What is the quote inner work I need to do on myself? What are the things that I love to do? Maybe some hobbies, maybe some interests that I gave up in the course of that, or things that maybe my partner didn't have any interest in, but are still, my heart is still screaming for me to go do that. How do I get back to myself? How do I close that gap? Because there's always a gap at that point. How do I close that gap and do those things? So that clarity and then returning to yourself, those are the cornerstones of that empowered healing before we go and do all the other work. That's only a part of the process, but that is the first part of the process.
And it's like building the foundation, right? You cannot build the foundation of true love when you've not really understood yourself and you've not really found out who your true version is. What are some of the most common obstacles you see that keep women from empowering healing?
So I think the most common obstacle is that, and it's something that unfortunately women aren't even aware of, but it is that eschewing radical responsibility. What does that mean? So I have seen women, and these are women who are at the top of their game. They're wonderful mothers, they're wonderful grandmothers, they're wonderful coworkers and friends and sisters and daughters and all that. But there's always this idea of I am who I am because of these external factors. And
Mm.
then there's that, okay, well, I'm not going to get better. I'm not going to find great men because all the men are idiots or all the men are losers and jerks and scams and cheaters. And so when we are externalizing and we are putting our romantic success on a preconceived notion of how men think or how we think men are, we're doing ourselves a great disservice because we are sidestepping the internal work that we need to do. And if we honestly feel like men are all, scammers and cheaters and all of this, we attract what we think.
Yeah.
And so if you have that, well, they're all cheaters and whatnot, like you're not going to be, how are you going to attract the wonderful, good person if that is what you truly believe? And so it is that responsibility to dig deep. It's that responsibility to start rewriting those beliefs that no longer serve us. And it is to dig out that self-sabotage. And so we can't do any of those things until we take radical responsibility. If this is what I want, and I am the player in my life, and love is what I want, Dominic West isn't just going to magically knock on our door saying, I'm here, I'm single. I wish that could happen. I am a dating coach. I'm not a fairy godmother. But what I can show you is we're going to bibbity bobbity boo you into having a strong foundation, which comes from radical responsibility. That's
Right.
the number one thing. That is the one common obstacle is we're not even aware of it because we're not
Yeah.
really taught
Because
that.
we're so used to it, right? I don't know which episode, but I did talk about this a few episodes before, or maybe like months ago. When we say I am this because of that, we are saying that we are victims of
Yep.
that environment, of that person.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I was having this conversation with a friend, and she was talking about her word of the year was space. And she just wasn't able to get there, right? And she would have moments of space, but she wasn't able to get there. And she had the plan in place, and she had everything in place. She had coaches and everything. And towards the end of the year, we were having a conversation, and she's like, I know my word of the year was space, but I just don't have that. She's a Catholic. She goes to church. So the notion of hard work has been like ingrained into her. She's saying all these things. I'm not saying it for her. She's telling me I'm a Catholic. I go to church, and we've been told to work hard, and my dad worked hard, and I feel like I have to work hard all the time. And even if I have space, I can't really relax because I feel like I have to work hard to be able to deserve money. And we're talking about her career here, not dating. But basically, what she's saying is, I am a hard worker because of what I've learned from my surroundings, from my environment.
Yeah.
Right? Now, was she born a hard worker? No.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't born as anything. Like people say I'm lazy, or I'm an anxious person.
Yeah.
Right? Or I'm an angry person. We weren't born an angry person. We weren't born an anxious person. But when we're saying, I am who I am this person, we are basically saying that we are victims to our environment. Right? And the change, the true change, whether it's about dating, whether it's about coming back home to yourself, your career, your relationships, yourself, your relationship with yourself, it starts from when you say, I am not going to be a victim to my environment anymore.
Yep. Absolutely. Preach. Like absolutely. And when we take that, I am not the victim. I am the actor in this. I am the player, and I am responsible for the things that I want.
Yeah.
And when we step up to that responsibility is when that healing can begin. But that is a very common obstacle that the women I work with that when we first start working together, that kind of keeps them in the way from finding the love that they desire. And that is one of the foundational things that we work through. I think the second biggest obstacle that I see is scarcity. That there is this idea that all the good men are taken, because if they are really good men, why would they be single? And this is loop. It is this logical fallacy I hear time and time again. And so what I love to present to them is, do you consider yourself an incredible woman? Well, I'd like to think so. Okay, but you're single.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
And you can see just it's that emoji of like the little head exploding.
Yes.
it's like that. And so I think that there is a scarcity that I see a lot, that it's there are no good men out there, so I guess I should just settle. Oh, I settled. And unfortunately, probably a good 75% of the women that I work with, who are these incredible women, they do believe that they might have settled in their past relationship.
Yeah.
And so then they're kicking themselves even more. They're like, well, why did I settle? And I was like, well, you were judging yourself from an unfair vantage point. But
Right.
there's this kind of idea of all the good men are taken. There's no good men out there. So you know what? I guess I'm just going to have to just date whoever says hello to me.
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of that they're not excited and they're like, oh, but I don't want to be lonely. So I guess I'm just going to be with this person, although they don't set my soul afire. So there's that. And then there's a scarcity of, and I hear this all the time, Dee, time is running out.
Mm.
I am going to be lonely for the rest of my life. Time is running out. And I like to ask, well, how remind me how old you are again? I know how old all my clients are, but how old are you again? I'm 52. And then I'm just like shaking my head. And I'm like, okay, you talk about your mother and grandmother a lot. How old are they? Well, she's 75 and my grandmother is still alive and kicking and she just turned, 94 or 100 or whatever it is. I'm like, okay, oh, I know you're a smart woman. So let's do some math here. And then, then they're like, well, you know what I mean. I'm like, no, 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 no. Let's actually figure this out. Is time really running out for you?
Right.
And so there's this idea, though, and that actually comes from scarcity, that they feel like time is running out. And then so we have to get curious, why does that belief exist? And exist because they have unfortunately absorbed the ageist messaging in our culture of a woman beyond childbearing years is nothing. And so it is challenging that. Why do you believe time is running out for you? Because you're 52. If you would actually believe that, you would have stayed in that unhealthy marriage. So, like, let's push back. You don't believe time is running out for you in any of these other aspects of your life. You're still aggressively investing. You're still having a great time with your adult children. You're still going on trips and whatnot. So let us kind of borrow that healthy mindset you have about time and how can we apply that to this one area? Because
Right.
clearly you don't believe that in all these other areas of your life. And so is that scarcity on time? That's the big one. And that scarcity on there's just no good men, and challenging those things. And once we start challenging that and dismantling that and rebuilding that, then that continued healing and that continued foundation for dating in a wonderful way can occur. But if you're stuck in scarcity, very, very hard to do.
Right. I love that how you break it down in terms of, borrowing the time mindset from other areas of their life and, no good men left, all those things that you just talked about, because it makes sense to the practical side of the brain. Obviously, it's very evident that beneath all of those obstacles are these limiting beliefs that they have absorbed from cultural conditioning, patriarchy,
Yep.
their own upbringing and all of that. Even when they're saying that there are no good men or there are no incredible men left,
Yep.
somewhere deep down inside, they probably feel like, all incredible men are taken because I am not incredible. I am the one who's left out, right? I'm like, change left out. And somewhere deep down inside, when they change that, when they change their mindset from that I'm really an incredible woman, and not just believing that on the surface level, but truly believing that, and there are incredible men, and time is on my side, and all of those things, then they're at least in the right mindset. Now, after that, whatever happens with their relationship, it's totally up to them, but they're in a very empowered place now to call the shots, right? I can see how empowered you would be. And it's so interesting to me because this is the work in every aspect of our life. This is the work that people do in advancing in their careers, in business, all the mindset work, right? It's the same thing. When you are in that empowered state, you already have an upper hand. You're not a victim to your environment. You're not a victim to time, right? And you truly believe that you are enough and you are worthy.
Absolutely. And these women could read 1,000 different Instagram posts, and it's not going to sink in
Yeah.
because that work is going to come from within. And the third part of the biggest obstacle that we work on really kind of puts the bow on that and really kind of weaves it together. And I think one of the biggest, the third biggest obstacle of the three is that these incredible women who have been through so much, who've experienced so much and have risen like a phoenix from the ashes, are unaware of their resilience.
Mm.
And when you are unaware of the resilience you have and you're unaware of how strong you are, dating and approaching that can feel very overwhelming and very scary and very stressful. And I think when I look at a lot of these women, they say, well, I'm scared to date because what if I get, what if I have sex with a guy, I get physically intimate and then he ghosts me? And then I can't deal with that rejection. What if I really like a guy and he doesn't like me back, and I just can't deal with that rejection, and I can't deal with this or this or that. And I hear that a lot. And that, I think, to me that is maddening, because I look at everything that these women have been through, not just in dealing with their messy divorces, or not just in dealing with the bullshit, if it was something messy, or the relationships maybe of dating that they've had before they start working with me, or even the fact that they probably went through some stuff with their children growing up, whether it was managing the passing of a parent and the stress, whether it was being laid off at work, whether it was XYZ, and they just sweep all of that under the carpet.
Mhm.
They sweep under the carpet everything that they have been through, every fire that they have forged, and everything that has been thrown their way that they were able to navigate with strength and grace. And they somehow just forget that, and they say, I can't deal with the rejection. I'm not strong enough. And it's maddening, because I'm like, have you seen all these other things in your life that you had the courage to get through,
Yeah.
that you came out on the other side stronger? That's not to say that you were impervious to the pain, but you got through that.
Mhm.
And now you're telling me that you're going to just crumble? You're just going to crumble like a bunch of saltine crackers in my hand if a guy doesn't text you back? Come
Mm.
on, snap out of it. And
Yeah.
so that is the work that we have to do as well, where we borrow, who is this best self you are? Who are these things, these experiences that you've had before, that that you can apply this skill
Mhm.
set? And whenever we do this kind of work, a lot of my clients, they say, well, Martha, that's different. Oh, really? Tell me how that's different. Tell me how immigrating to a strange country and learning, because it is interesting to me that there's a lot of characteristics that I've noticed working with women over the years. They're always the oldest daughters. If
Really?
half of them are first generation, so I think that's the term, that they are the children of immigrants, or they come from a religious household, or XYZ, but it's always they ended up taking care of their younger siblings. They maybe did not have the chance to be like the fun, fanciful child, because they were always having to take care of their siblings and putting their needs behind taking care of the siblings. They were always the overachievers at school.
Mhm.
They were always the ones who were putting it was almost kind of like they didn't even know it, but they were kind of developing like a martyr complex.
Mm.
Every single woman I've worked with, Dee, has fallen to kind of like these archetypes. And so when you look at that, and then kind of going back to you're way more resilient than you think you are, look at all of these roles that were put on you as kind of the dutiful daughter, as filling these roles as the people pleaser, as making sure everybody was okay. If that has not built your strength, I don't know what has. And so it is kind of looking at, what are these roles that are making you think that you're not resilient? Let's actually challenge that. Who told you? Who told you you weren't resilient? And so challenging that. And when we think that we're just going to, fold like a bad suit, oh, and that's the reason that I can't date. If we think that and we don't approach it instead with strength and curiosity, that's what's going to make dating at midlife very challenging. So
Yeah.
when we can do that, when we can say, you know what, it's going to hurt, it's going to suck. Let's not have toxic positivity here. We can be real. Yeah, when a guy doesn't text us back that we really liked, that sucks, that stings. But then it is going back to that initial work of one of the original parts of the clarity of the empowered healing. That, okay, who was I in that relationship? Do I actually not like feeling needy? Okay, well, let's work on that. Well, what are the reasons maybe this relationship wouldn't have worked out? This person maybe just did not seem responsive or communicative. And I know that I actually want somebody who's communicative. I actually really want to have someone who's excited about me as I am excited about them. I don't want to have to be bending over backwards, pleasing somebody, going back into the people pleasing tendencies I might have.
Right.
And so when we're able to actually kind of overcome that fear of rejection by reminding ourselves of our resilience and getting grounded in that, that's when the beautiful, fun dating can happen.
Yeah, I can
But we
see
have to
that.
recognize that first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
I mean, I hope listeners who have been listening to the podcast for since its inception can see that this is the journey home to self.
Hell
Everything you've
yeah.
said is the journey home to self,
Hmm.
right? And you use that journey for dating, you use that journey for career, you use that journey to heal from trauma, to be a better
Hmm.
mom, to be a better person, to be a better sister, brother, or anyone.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same kind of work. And
Hmm.
when you are able to become your true self, then all that fun dating and all that fun stuff starts to happen to yourself because you are doing it from a very, very empowered place. Martha, thank you
Absolutely.
so much. This has been
Thank you.
so much fun, and everything that you've said is just hits so perfectly, and I'm sure the listeners will find it immensely valuable. On a personal note, looking back, what do you think was your place where you needed to heal the most to find love again?
Oh, wow. Do you mean like the a particular incident?
It could be a particular incident or a
Okay.
particular aspect of yourself. For example, for me, it's always been about my unworthiness. I
Mhm.
felt completely unworthy of everything, of love, of everything and anything. That's my work in this lifetime to again and again heal myself from that because it definitely comes back again and again. What do you think yours was when you were healing from your nasty divorce and
Right.
on the path to finding new love?
I think one of the things that I knew I was going to be okay before I had the sophistication to know that was I was in just a really shit show of a relationship when I was separated. And so, oh my God, we're diddly do. This is like going back in time, T. So it's maybe like January 2011, and I had been in this very unhealthy kind of fling with actually my boss's boss. That's a whole other podcast. And knowing that I wasn't getting treated well and just waking up one day thinking, this, whatever this is, this can't be it. There has to be more than this. And so I remember texting him saying, do not come over tonight. I do not want to see you again. And then, getting the flurry, well, why not? Whatever, 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 and actually blocking him. And I don't even know where that strength came from because I remember at that time just kind of feeling so raw and so damaged and so broken. And so that linchpin, something, and I think that was kind of that
Pivot.
that real me, that
Yeah.
speaking in somewhere that had been hidden in the gut, had been suffocated for centuries, if not millennia, saying, hold on a second, you are worth so much more and you deserve so much more than this. And that being, hey, don't talk to me again. And that, at least, I'm not saying that didn't stop like a shit show of other bad relationships before I learned my lesson, because I had to like learn, but
Don't we all need to be
I know,
hit on the head
exactly.
like several times?
Exactly. But I think that was the whisper for, hey, this is not the way to do it. You're so much better than this. You're so much more than this. There's so much more for you. And that came, 11 years later when I joyfully, married an incredible man. And so I think that is probably the beginning of that, where it's like,
Oh.
okay, this is the time to come home. It's been a long ass journey, and it still is a journey. Yes.
Well, I'm so glad that you say that because sometimes people are always looking for the after. Like me too, when I was in my dark night of the soul, I would be like, when would this be over? When would
Yeah.
this be over? And we all don't realize that we've spent so long in the suffering.
Hmm.
And it's mostly unconscious suffering. We've spent
Yeah.
so long believing that we are not worthy, believing that we are worth way less than we are.
Hmm.
We believing that we are not enough. That to turn that belief on its head and to install a new belief in its place cannot happen overnight. It's going to be
Hmm.
a long ass journey,
Hmm.
but it's going to be so much worth it.
Absolutely. And everybody has to start somewhere. It
Yes.
doesn't matter how old you think you are, how much you've gone through, how much loss you've endured. You always have that right and the radical responsibility to begin again and to come back to who you actually really are.
Right. I mean, it's our one life we're talking about, right? So we can either watch it pass by and not do anything, or we can begin now. I know from experience and from seeing other people that if you don't, then something happens in your life, especially if you're called on this journey. Something happens, a breakdown happens, that
Mm-hmm.
is your point of pivot, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
like your true voice coming in, like yours did, and says, do not do this anymore, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
stand for it anymore. But it doesn't have to be. A breakdown doesn't happen. We all have free will, and we can choose to do this now. Martha, thank you so much
Thank
again. I am
you.
so excited that you shared all your beautiful wisdom with us. Where can people find you?
Yes. So, a couple of different places. If you guys are looking to date again, I would love to have you over at the free Facebook group. You can just Google Empowered Dating for Women. We've got daily trainings, we've got wit and wisdom, we have a sense of community and coaching to help you rewrite your next great love story. That's a great place. You can also head on over to my website, marthabodyfelt.com, take a look at the blog, sign up for the newsletter, and get lots of free weekly no BS advice on dating, as well as you can peep me over at Instagram. We have a lot of fun there. We have no BS coaching. We have pictures of food I make, travels, and as well as just really great advice on dating at midlife. And that is just at Martha Bodyfelt, all one word, completely phonetic.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll put all that in the show notes so that listeners can find you. And Martha, I know that you
Great.
love traveling. Where are you traveling to next?
So I will be going to one of my favorite cities, revisiting the fifth time, Mexico City, in January. But the first time my husband's been, so I cannot wait
Oh,
to show him
amazing.
one of my favorite places in the whole wide world.
That is amazing. All right. So good luck
Thank
on your
you.
trip. Of course, we are recording this episode in December of 2022, but we are going to release it much later. So you probably would have already been to Mexico City by the time this episode comes out. But good luck on all your travels, and
Thank
we
you.
will stay in touch. All right. Bye.
Wonderful. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you liked this one or any other episode, there are 3 ways you can support us. Number 1, come home. Start your journey. That's literally the whole point of this podcast. To inspire you, to empower you, and to give you the knowledge and tools so you remember who you really are. Number 2, I'd be so grateful if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That helps us get in front of more people. Number 3, share it with someone, a friend, a family member, a loved one, a peer. You never know how much someone needs to hear this today. Thank you again, and until next time, remember, you're whole, you're enough, you're worthy, you're unlimited, and you are perfect just the way you are. I'll see you next time.